We need to stop giving in to the chopped and Unc propaganda. Like, it's a waste of time. You're not going to find anything there. And that's how I feel about talking stages. 8 AMs. I know.
It's hot. It's hot.
Hi girl gang, welcome back to another season of the HCFSU Edit, the ultimate girl's guide to all things garnet and gold. We are back and better than ever. You best believe it. We're bringing on new guests. We kind of did a little rebrand. And so we are just so excited to bring to you this season. But of course, we had to start with something that everyone's talking about. It's 2026. We're deciding what's in and what's out. We asked some of you guys on our Instagram what your personal ins and outs were. And I think together we created a pretty solid list. So without further ado, I've got my little notebook here and we're going to be going through this list together. And I just want to give you a warning that I am going to be going in no particular order, no rhyme or reason, because it actually only has to make sense to me for me to do it. And so I don't feel like explaining it to anyone else. Thank you. All right, so starting off with an out for 2026. Now, this is going to be a little controversial, but that's exactly why I wanted to start with it. But in my personal opinion, I think that rebrands, restarts, reinventions are out right now. And maybe that's not what the current climate is feeling like. I've been seeing so many videos on my TikTok For You page saying like 2026 rebrand, how I'm like rebranding my entire personality for this year. And I just think that it's time that we stop trying to reinvent the wheel and to just kind of resume growing in what we're already doing. Like, we don't need to start all over again. We can just keep doing what we've already been doing and make it better. So personally, I just want to preface that with saying we don't need to rebrand ourselves. We don't need to feel like we have to completely scratch everything we've ever liked, known, or loved to be something new, because we're honestly just trying to become closer to ourselves every day, not become a completely new person we never met before. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay. Going in with my first in for 2026, and I feel like this is going to be the running theme for a lot of us, especially if you're in college right now, but being a villager to build a village. So if you've heard of like this saying, being a villager, essentially it means being a member of a community, being someone that others can rely on, and then also relying on other people. So frankly, I have heard far too many people say to me already within this year, like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to inconvenience you. Babe, it's 2026, be a burden. Like, I actually don't know how at this point we've gotten so far thinking we just can't be a burden to other people. I think that's quite literally the whole point. So be willing to be burdened, be willing to be a burden on other people, because that is how we build community with each other. And frankly, when you move to college, like, this is your first time where your family's not around, some of your close hometown friends are not around, and so you genuinely have to build that village from the ground up. So now's the time to do that. And if you're asking yourself, how do I do that? You literally just be a burden, and you also let other people be a burden on you. So for example, if your friends are asking you to help them move out of their dorm, move out of their apartment, you have to say yes. And I get it. No one wants to move a bunch of heavy boxes. I definitely don't. But it's what you've got to do to be a villager in this day and age. So no matter what. Another example, and this was from our friends from the hotline, Venmoing your friend who always DDs, or actually Venmoing your friend that always orders the Uber. I know you feel like your $2.17 doesn't make a difference. I promise you that it does. So, 2026, what's in being a villager? And on that note, what is totally out for 2026 is canceling on plans. Oh my God, when I say this is one of my personal biggest pet peeves, so maybe it's an issue that I'm just bringing forward because I have some kind of a problem with it, but genuinely, like, the Flakedemic is upon us. And I promise you when I say that, like, I get it. Like, we are in the era of protecting our peace, of holding up our boundaries, of saying no when we don't actually want to do things. And I am so for that. However, I just think that canceling on plans that you've made a commitment to, like, weeks in advance is so out for 2026. Like, seriously, take your friend dates seriously. Don't treat them as if you can just, push them away or reschedule them or whatever, because it's gonna get to a point where Your friends are gonna stop asking you to do things because you cancel on them so much. And I don't care if you have to show up 30 minutes late or you show up in a bad mood. Well, try not to do that, but just show up. Like, it will literally make the biggest difference in the world. And I genuinely think when you become someone that people can rely on to show up no matter what, rain or shine, like, you will be one step closer to building that village. Okay, number 2. I've been seeing this a lot recently on YouTube, on TikTok, but people are really wanting to go analog again. So kind of leaving that digital space behind, picking up a paper and pen, hence my little notebook here. We want to be offline. Frankly, we don't want to be, doom scrolling until the end of time anymore. We want to touch grass. We want to touch paper. We want to remember what the real world feels like. And I am so for that because I've also kind of been sitting on this question, like, who are we when we're not being perceived? I think it's so funny when someone asks that question. I think it's a trend right now saying, like, would you still run that marathon? Would you still drink that matcha? Would you still travel to Europe if you couldn't curate it into a perfect Instagram photo dump? Ask yourself that. I probably would still do all those things minus the marathon, but I'm just saying, like, who are we when we're not being watched, when we're not performing, when we're not putting our lives online all the time or watching other people's lives all the time? I think it's a valuable question, and I think it's something that we can definitely delve more into in 2026. And on top of that, using our hands more, being crafty, getting creative again. Like, people want to make an actual physical collage again. People want to be sewing their own clothes or thrifting things at the store instead of, just doing things online. Because I feel like there is something about that physicality of it all that really just connects you to it more. But on that note, what's out for 2026, I would say, is this all or nothing mindset, toxic mindset around like digital media consumption. We live in a digital day and age. There's no doubt about that. I mean, frankly, we can't really do anything without our phones. And let's be real, none of us are gonna ditch our actual phones for a flip phone. No matter how much we say we want to, no matter how much we think it's going to be better, trust that you're gonna be reaching for that iPhone within like probably 24 hours. So I want us to kind of let go of this mindset that in order to kind of go analog or get back in touch with doing fun physical things, like, we have to completely ditch the other side, which is going on our phones or going on the occasional Instagram like scroll or posting on your story. Like, there is nothing wrong with doing that, and there's nothing wrong with even enjoying doing that. I mean, that's what it's there for. But I think we're trying to shift our mindset from just letting that be our automatic like response to being intentional about it and saying, I'm actually in the mood to watch a couple get ready with me's, or I'm actually in the mood to scroll through my Instagram feed and see what my friends are up to. I know how many of us just click on that Instagram app because it's literally always there on our screen. Here's my challenge for you in 2026. Move all of your social media apps around on your phone, put them in a new place, and you will be amazed at how often your finger just automatically clicks on that button because it's always there. And then soon you'll find yourself opening that calculator app continuously, which we also need to be doing because 2026 is the year of budgets. Let's say that. But anyways, that's a separate topic. So let's just stop demonizing all of our cell phones and digital content. I think we're gonna kind of get caught in this constant loop of either being completely disconnected or over-consuming media. So let's relax a little bit. We can put down the phone for a couple hours, go talk to your friends, go do a craft, and then come back and post a picture about it. It's not gonna be the end of the world. Okay, next thing. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna actually do another out for 2026. And I want you guys to hear me when I say this. I know it's gonna sound ridiculous when it comes out of my mouth, but we need to stop giving in to the chopped and Unc propaganda. Listen, I love it as much as the next one. And as someone who's currently going on to be 22 in a couple of weeks, I have never felt more chopped and Unc than I do right now. But listen, we cannot fall into this propaganda. Like, when I say we have to remain young, we have to remain vital. Like, we cannot just be sitting at home saying, I'm too old for this. I can't go out on a Friday night. It's already 9 p.m. You can easily go out. It's 9 p.m. Like, I seriously think that we need to bring back some just fun and spontaneity into our lives. And we need to stop acting like we're these like 40-year-old grandmas who have to sit at home and knit. And nothing against knitting. I'm a crocheter myself. But it's like, we don't have to say like, I'm too old for this, because frankly, babe, you have never been younger. You have actually never been younger in your entire life. And so I want to see people being, excited to go out and make fun plans, be spontaneous, and remember that we are still young and hot. Say it with me, I am still young and hot. And that's the mindset we're taking into 2026. So on that note, what I also think is in randomness over routine. I feel like a lot of people try to cement some solid like morning routines or night routines whenever the new year starts. And I'm also completely down for that. I do think routine can offer really important structure in all of our lives. However, I feel like we can kind of get into a rut with routines sometimes. Like we tend to just do the same things over and over again because we've always done it, and we don't actually sit and think about, is this what I actually want to be doing with my time, or is this just what I've always done with my time? You know what I'm saying? So I want to challenge you guys to do one random thing per week, something that's not in your schedule, something that you don't usually do, and indulge in that spontaneity for a second, because I truly think that that kind of keeps life exciting and interesting, especially when you hit those like lulls, those moments where you feel like you're just in liminal space and going through the day-to-day motions. It's really important to just change things up every now and again to give your life a little bit of, I don't know how you would say, like je ne sais quoi or something. Just give it something different to look at. Next thing that I think is totally out in 2026, talking stages and dating for the plot. Listen, ladies, I know that it's tempting to say that your chaotic choices in your romantic relationships are for the plot, but I'm gonna say let's not. Because at this age, like the things you guys are doing that are for the plot actually end up being like extremely harmful to our mental health usually. And so it's no longer really fun anymore. And I think we should be having more fun in 2026. And so I just think we kind of need to take that little saying out of our vocabulary and perhaps out of our habits for this year. And additionally onto that, talking stages. I don't know who came up with this term. I don't know when this started, but it has done serious numbers on the dating culture of today. And I seriously can't think of a worse way to waste your time other than maybe like circling around the Traditions parking lot before your 120 class. Like it's a waste of time. You're not going to find anything there. And that's how I feel about talking stages. We need to be bringing back intentionality in dating. And that doesn't mean every single man you go on a date with has to be your husband or even your next boyfriend or even your next date. I'm just saying, like, if I see another girl who's been in a talking stage for 6 months with someone, cut it, wrap it up. That's it. We're calling it quits. We're not calling it talking stages anymore. Go on dates with people and say you're dating people. That's literally what the word is for. So I think we just need to get those out of our vocabulary and do something different now. And instead of dating for the plot, why don't we start dating for the character arc? Like, we're actually all just trying to become better versions of ourselves. Ask yourself, are these dates, are these people that I'm meeting helping me get closer to the person I want to be? Am I learning more about myself? Am I learning more about other people? If the answer is no, in my opinion, it's a waste of time. So, and it's okay if you do date the guy that you know you shouldn't date, maybe like once or twice, like it's not gonna be the end of the world. And you're gonna live from it and you're gonna learn from it. But we should not be making the same mistakes over and over and over again, because it is getting exhausting. And I'm going to be the one that says this, and I will hold your hand when I say this. Your friends are tired of hearing about your ex-boyfriend from 3 years ago that you can't seem to let go. Babe, he's had 2 girlfriends since you already. So it's time that we move forward, move on with intentionality, and actually make dating fun again and not just be out here like literally feeling like we have to slam our head against the wall. Okay, that's my thought on that. The next in for 2026 is comfort zone We hardly know her. I think it's the time where we really need to be pushing ourselves to do challenging things, to do hard things, and just to do things that we're kind of uncomfortable with. This is something that I was seeing a lot on some of you guys' responses to our hotline, and that is to just gain more confidence and put ourselves out there. Stop really overanalyzing what other people are thinking about us 24/7. And again, I think that kind of comes from that whole social media aspect we talked about before, but I just want us to really challenge ourselves to never stay in our comfort zone. I should be able to go to your comfort zone and no one knows you there, because that's how much you're not even there. So I feel like we should just be challenging ourselves to do the hard thing, even if we don't want to. I know it's difficult, but it really does pay off, and you're gonna get way farther in whatever you're trying to do by getting out of that comfort zone. And for instance, I think we should be going to more social events where we only know like 2 people, and one of them happens to be the host. I know that sounds terrifying. I know that sounds like your worst nightmare, but genuinely put yourself out there and you never know what's going to come of it. I think social anxiety should be scared of us in 2026. You know, I'm kind of tired of hearing people say, oh, like, I'm so nervous. Like, what if people judge me? What if I show up alone? And it's like, not to invalidate anyone with social anxiety, but it's like, it's exposure therapy, okay? Put yourself out there, go to that party, even if only if you know a couple people, and then meet more people. You actually never know what could come of it. Okay, jumping to another in 2026. I know this one's gonna be controversial. I know people aren't gonna wanna hear it, but you just need to hear me out, and you might realize that you're actually already living out this reality without even knowing it. And frankly, you don't have to like it to do it either. But what's in 2026? 8 AMs. I know. Sit with that for a second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sophia's behind the camera looking at me like I'm actually crazy. And maybe I am. Maybe all of the 6:30 a.m. wake up times have really started to get to my head. But I genuinely think 8 AMs could be either an 8 a.m. class or you're waking up to go to work at 8 a.m. I personally think that there is this stigma around going to an 8 a.m. that has taken over all of us. And frankly, it's a fear that we need to conquer, because at some point, you're gonna have to wake up for an 8 a.m. And that 8 a.m. is probably gonna be your job. So I think when you've started going to 8 a.m.s or working at 8 a.m., you've really made it to the big leagues, is what it means. And the more you do it, the less scary it is. Genuinely, I think I've been taking 8 a.m. since probably sophomore year of college. And for the first 2 semesters, it was completely against my will. I was dragging myself to those classes, basically kicking and screaming every time. And since then, somehow my schedule always works out to where I have to wake up at least 3 days out of the week for an 8 a.m. or for work at 8 a.m. And as much as I used to be scared about it before, now I'm so used to it. And I honestly like having that routine of waking up early, getting my day started, and I'm kind of forced to. I have to go to work, I have to go to class. So I kind of think 8 AMs are in for 2026, and I think you should challenge yourself to maybe take one, or if you work, maybe just have one shift where you work early in the mornings and just get it out of the way. And on this note as well, don't let having an 8 a.m. stop you from having a life after 5 p.m. Genuinely, I feel like that's what's helped me so much, because before you're like, I have to get in bed early, I have to get my 10 hours of sleep. Back to the chopped and Unc propaganda. You don't need 10 hours of sleep, actually. Maybe you do, I'm not a doctor. But you can still hang out with your friends, catch a dinner, maybe go to Flip in College Town for 2 hours. It's not gonna kill you, I promise. And it's honestly gonna make it so much easier to wake up in the morning, because you're gonna be like, well, I just did something really fun, or I have something really fun to look forward to later. So I personally think if we can conquer the 8 a.m. in 2026, that would be so amazing. And I really wish that for all of you, whether or not you like it. Some of you guys are probably doing this and you don't have to like it, but you're doing it. And I still think that counts. So what's out in 2026? On that note of timing, that awkward gap of time between your classes where you can't go home and you can't get something to eat, but you also can't sit down long enough to do any work. Yeah, I think we need to start coming up with something to do during that time because I still haven't figured it out. I mean, I think usually I use that time to like call my mom, call a friend. If you're someone who's really busy and you just feel like you don't have time to touch base with anyone, let that be your time to touch base with everyone that you can. I think we don't have to use that time to be super productive, but it also doesn't have to be like that time of liminal space where you're just sitting there feeling awkward, not doing anything, scrolling on your phone. Yet again, bring a book. Bring a snack, phone a friend, do something, you know? But if not, it's okay. We'll get through it together. But I think it's so out for 2026. I don't understand why our schedules sometimes have that weird gap in them. But I believe that we are strong enough to find a way to persevere. Okay. And this is my last 2026 in, and it's kind of a little bit more of a serious one, but I want us to end on a high note as well. I think 2026 is the year of honesty, authenticity, and eccentricity. Yeah, I'm gonna let that sit for a moment. Genuinely, I wanna say honesty first because I think it's one of the hardest things that we have to do. And so many of us are not honest on a day-to-day basis. And I'm not talking like, oh, I'm lying directly to your face 24/7. But how many of us are actually saying how we feel? Talking to our friends if something's upsetting us, or telling our boss at work that we feel like we're not being supported enough and we need some more help. How many of us are actually saying what it is that's going on inside of us and letting the world know that? Not a lot of us, and I feel like it's pretty difficult, and I feel like a lot of us spend a lot of energy trying to put a front up or, put on this mask that feels safe and feels like is going to be accepted by other people. But as someone who's probably been on the receiving end of people who haven't been as honest, we've all been there, where someone hasn't been that honest with us, where they've been misleading to us, where they didn't tell us how they really felt, and it kind of came to our detriment. And we were like, why didn't they just tell me how they really felt all along? Yeah, that's because we have a lack of honesty going on. And so I think in 2026, I really want to challenge everybody to be not only honest with others, but honest with themselves first. Because I'm a firm believer that people that aren't really honest with others and put on that front and put on that mask are truly not honest with themselves on a day-to-day basis. And you really have to start there if you want to start staying true to yourself. And that goes to my point of authenticity. I think being authentic is really just being honest. It's being honest about who you are and what you want and what you're afraid of and what you feel confident about. And I think 2026, we want to start showing up as we are, not showing up as who we think we should be or who we think other people want us to be. Because people can really tell, like humans are like literally designed to sniff out people that are dishonest and deceitful. And so I think that the only price that you have to pay for authenticity is maybe just being a little uncomfortable sometimes, being willing to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. But as we've discussed before, getting out of your comfort zone usually pays off. And so I want us to see us showing up authentically. And finally, showing up as like our weird selves, our middle school selves, the sides of us that we used to think were too cringy or embarrassing to bring out. Listen, I've been catching word that 2016 is back, and I don't know how old you guys were in 2016. I was probably 11 though, and I can tell you for a fact that that was like peak awkward stage, peak like, I don't even know. I would never choose to go back to 2016 because I don't want to go back to that awkward stage. However, maybe I do wish that I could bring some of that 2016 mindset into 2026 because back then maybe I just didn't really care about how people perceive me. I didn't really think too much about my appearance and what I was doing and how I was being seen. And so we just need to go back to being ourselves and letting loose, letting people think about us what they want to think, because at the end of the day, it only really matters what you think and what the people who are actually close and care about you think. And so I say in 2026, let that free flag fly. 2016 is coming back, for real. So I want to end on that note because I feel like that can be a challenge for all of us. I know it's something that I personally want to take on as well, but I hope this episode was somewhat entertaining for you and you were able to take some cool ins and outs that you can bring into your 2026. But if this didn't resonate with you, I'd love to hear about your own ins and outs in the comments below. So like and subscribe and come back for our next episode. Bye.